Hello, hello, hello there. Good evening, LinkedIn. Welcome to Cyversity Charlotte's very first event of 2024. My name is Angel Jordan. I am actually the chapter president of Cyversity Charlotte. Here with me is my lovely co-host, VP of Training and Development, Elena Williams.
Hi, good afternoon for everyone, and thanks so much for joining. So thanks for either getting right off of work or working a little bit and multitasking and ending out your day with us. We hope that you enjoy our event today, and we're just really excited to talk about the point guard. This is awesome,
Yes.
Angel.
Yes. Yes, we are taking advantage of some March Madness activity around here. And so we have our speaker, Anthony Hendricks, an attorney who will tell us about his unconventional path to cybersecurity in a few. But before we begin, I want to tell you a little bit about Cyversity in case you were not aware of the organization. We can move forward to the next slide, please. Yep, again, please. Thank you. So Cyversity is an organization that was really started to provide opportunities in cybersecurity for underrepresented populations. So that is what the organization's mission is really for. We want to increase the number of people that look like us in cybersecurity functions. And so today I thought it would be a good way to kick off the 2024 events for Charlotte Cyversity and talking about potentially unconventional paths to cybersecurity. So today we'll walk through our agenda, have introduce our speaker, and then we have some Q&A. And then after that, we actually have a quick training and education corner where we will provide you with opportunities to learn more about ways to upskill yourself to kind of, again, break into cyber, and then we will have a program close. So that is our overall agenda for today. One thing to note is that if this session will be recorded, and also the session will be available on LinkedIn as well as the Cyversity YouTube channel rather. So I want to just share that with you in case you would like to reference this at a future date. Thank you. We can move forward. All right, so as I mentioned, Cyversity's mission is to achieve the consistent representation of women, traditionally underrepresented minorities, and veterans in the cybersecurity industry through programs designed to diversify, educate, and empower. Next slide, please. And just a breakdown of our members, right? So you can see on the left-hand side, we have a breakdown of ethnicity. Roughly half of Cyversity members are Black or African American, followed by Latino, other, and Asian and other multiple selections. So we are a vast majority of underrepresented groups, and this is who we are hoping to target.
And
On the
Angel,
left-hand
I
side,
always love this slide because, I see that we've got members joining and we're just kicking off. But as you think about your cybersecurity journey, and really thinking through like where are the places that you can go and get information and have conversations. And so that is what Cyversity is here for. So, definitely, drink from the well and get all this knowledge today. As we talk to our point guard, Anthony, as he gives us some wisdom. But please connect. And if you're not a member yet, please join. I think that, having a place where you can go and ask those questions, get learning, and then still be able to show up if you feel like you have to show up polished on the job. I think that's the benefit of being a part of an organization like this. So welcome everyone. If you're a member, high five. Thanks so much for being a part of the team and being with us. But if you're checking us out for the first time and you're really wondering like, what is this? It's a great place for you to come get education, have community, and be able to fellowship. And we actually look forward to being able to do some service activities this year. So stay tuned.
yes. Thank you, Lena. Yeah, we actually have some fun events planned for 2024, a little bit of networking and also a little bit of training and education. So happy to do that. As you can also see in this slide, again, Lena, thank you for slowing me down. I talk fast.
No, you're fine. Well, I know folks are joining us, and timing is everything. So being able to come in and catch up and know where we are, and as Angel mentioned already, that we are recording this. So if you're joining us, 5 minutes in, don't worry. grab your cup of tea, your water, your coffee if you need that extra jolt of caffeine, and we've got good content.
Awesome. Yes, and I see we have some folks joining in the chat. Thank you, Ed Hubbard, Frankie. Thank you guys so much for joining and leaving comments. We are an interactive group, so at any point in our conversation today, if you want to leave questions in the chat, I won't be able to directly address them via chat, but I will certainly address them verbally as we go through today's presentation. All right, next, please. All righty. So here are some things that Cyversity actually is really responsible for working. So we have engage events. So these are events that are hosted, lots of attendees, a super high satisfaction score. Really, these are opportunities to network with industry thought leaders. We also have training and scholarships. Over 100+ training scholarships have been awarded, worth an estimated almost $500,000. Again, that's thousands of hours of training and development skills completed. So again, we are what we say we are about. We also have an amazing mentorship program. I actually participated as a mentor last year, and this is by far Cyversity's mentorship program is by far the most in-depth program I have ever experienced. I recommend if you are not a member of Cyversity, you need to join. And then I would recommend to join and sign up for the mentorship program. You can actually mentor in people, not necessarily in your specific functional areas, but let's say you have an interest, say in GRC, you may want to find a mentor in that space. I can't speak enough about the mentorship program. It includes conversations with CISOs. I mean, let's be honest, how especially as an entry-level individual, being able to speak with a CISO directly is an amazing opportunity for all of us. And then lastly, we have an ambassador program where, again, industry titans, CISOs and C-suite executives really evangelize the Cyversity mission on many platforms, including, but not limited to, LinkedIn. So Cyversity is on LinkedIn. We are on Twitter or X. And I believe we may have a presence on Facebook, but don't hold me to that. But I know we for sure are on X and LinkedIn, and we're pretty active. Next slide, please. Again, this is repeating what we talked about our chapters. We have chapters across the U.S. Charlotte, I believe, is the most recently chartered chapter, but we have them in most major cities. If you're interested in chartering a chapter, you can also reach out as well. We are always looking to expand our reach and get more of us into cyber. And then we, of course, have mentorship and, again, scholarships and training. Next, please. See, Ed, I hear you. The mentorship is amazing. The mentorship program is fantastic. And, really the chapters are our lifeblood of Cyversity. What we do is we connect cybersecurity professionals at a local level, right? And that is really to help us raise awareness for and promote the mission of Cyversity across the country. Next, please.
Well, and Angel, I'm glad Ed said that in the chat, and I don't know if it's Ed or Edward. So I just want to, if I say Edward and you're like, now you sound like my mom, so I'll call you Ed. But mentorship is so important because sometimes people don't know when they need a mentor. And so I think you have to decide like where you are in your career. One, it is going to be a time investment. So just be mindful that you have the capacity, whether you're being like a mentee or you're a mentor, right? And then the other piece is just be very upfront with yourself and what are you trying to kind of get out of that interaction. The other piece that I will say from a mentorship perspective is that network. Opening up, like who's in Angel's network, who's in Anthony's network, who's in Josh and James, that you'll hear more about them. They're also on our board. We'll introduce them as well. Who are in their networks that can connect me and I can have broader interest. Now, it's not just kind of jumping and having the 10-minute LinkedIn coffee session. It is trying to figure out like, okay, I'm trying to figure out my cyber journey. Do I want to go into cloud? What's up with AI? What role could I play in that? So just thinking through that and being honest with yourself. And it's okay if you do mentoring 1 year and maybe another year you don't need it, but then 3 years down the line, it's something you're looking for because you're very specific about your next step. But I just want to take that plug since Ed came in there and said that the program was great. I'm glad to hear that we've had some experience there.
Yeah, and I must add, in terms of mentorship, I want to challenge individuals interested in being mentored to ask yourself, what can I bring to this mentorship relationship? Oftentimes, people see mentorship as a one way, like the leader speaking to the mentee and guiding and directing them. But everyone has a part to play in the mentorship sort of relationship. So think about that as you decide to embark upon mentorship conversations with folks. Like, how can we want to help? Yes, but how can you help us? So think about that as a mentorship partnership is a two-way street. All right, next slide, please. And I am happy to introduce formally our chapter leadership team. So, of course, I'm the president of the chapter. Elena is also VP of Education Events. Also on the call is James Jackson, who is our VP of Marketing and Membership, and Joshua Cray, who is the VP of Partnerships and Volunteering. One thing to mention, if you guys are not involved and want to be involved in Charlotte area activities, you can reach out to any one of us. We are always looking for additional faces and resources to help us execute amazing programs. So I did want to share with you who our leadership team is. You can find all of us on LinkedIn. I tend to run my mouth quite a bit on LinkedIn.
In the best of ways. She's always giving wisdom and cool things she's working on. So, but yes, I mean, Angel shared our leadership team. We as the chapter grows, we look forward to being able to kind of build out work streams, and we want your help and partnership. And so, you will see through LinkedIn announcements where we will talk about our upcoming events that we will have. We will have some in-person opportunities. We will do some volunteerism. We understand that giving back in the community is critical as well. And we want to get to know you all. But then at the same time, as we grow, as we look at years to come, like as we can get this bigger, we would love to be able to do more. And we need your help to do that.
For sure. Yeah, we are planning on roughly having a quarterly event this year, an event every quarter this year in 2024. So you can expect that. So again, as Elena mentioned, it will be a combination of community service, networking events, and speakers. So it should be a really cool year. So stay tuned. Next slide, please. And also, in terms of networking opportunities, I guess the next networking opportunity, Cyversity, is going to be at the RSAD conference. So I think that's in May. So just wanted to let you guys know that if you are planning on attending the RSA conference, look out for Cyversity because we will be there. All right, next slide, please. All righty. So as I mentioned, we cannot do this alone. We look forward to your involvement. So if you are interested in any of these areas, membership, sponsorship, chapters, mentorship, and scholarships, please feel free to use your phone to scan those QR codes. And I have not mentioned that my professional role, I actually run security education for Opportune, which is a fintech based out of the Bay Area. So I would not be a security awareness professional if I did not say these QR codes are safe. I have tested them. There's no social engineering going on happening in these QR codes. They are safe. Want to just confirm that and validate that for everyone. I'm professionally paranoid, so I want everyone else to also be professionally paranoid.
I know. I love that that's where your mindset goes. I'm sure other people were like, hold on, is it safe? So if you're thinking like that, phishing and vishing is your jam.
Yes. Quishing. I'm tired of the acronyms. We just need to call it social engineering and leave it alone. Anyway. All right. So again, these are ways to get involved. And again, you can always reach out to any of us for more information about getting involved either locally with a chapter or even at a national level. All right. So now let's talk about what you guys are here for. Let me introduce our guest speaker, Anthony Hendricks. He is a legal problem solver and litigator at Crowe and Dunleavy in its Oklahoma City office. At Crowe and Dunleavy, Anthony serves as founder and chair of the firm's Cybersecurity and Data Privacy Practice Group. His legal practice focuses on data privacy compliance, regulatory enforcement and permitting, and other vet the company suits in the areas of data security, privacy, and other complex business litigation. I almost feel like if a data breach happens Anthony may be the first person that companies call. I may be reaching there, but I feel like he is right there on the pulse. Anthony is an adjunct professor who teaches cybersecurity law and information privacy courses at the Oklahoma City University School of Law. He also hosts Nothing About You Says Computer Technology, a weekly podcast on cybersecurity and data privacy viewed through the lens of diverse voices. Anthony is a proud graduate of Howard University and was selected as Howard's first British Marshall Scholar. Anthony holds 2 masters from the London School of Economics and earned his JD from Harvard Law School. To learn more about Anthony's current projects and upcoming speaking events, or to listen to his latest podcast, visit anthonyjhendricks.com. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Mr. Hendricks for I Am the Point Guard, an attorney's unconventional path to cyber. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Yes, I am super excited to be here, super excited to present I Am the Point Guard, an unconventional path to cyber as an attorney. Let's go to that next slide. So I've already gotten a great introduction, so I won't repeat myself here, but I will say that while I am an attorney, I am not your attorney, and this presentation should not be considered legal advice. Instead, think of this conversation today as a conversation between friends. But if you need legal advice, please find a local attorney that can help you. Let's go to that next slide. So you can scan the QR code and that'll take you to the most recent episode of my podcast. While it says weekly, it's more like weekly-ish. And so you may not get a new episode every week. Next slide, please. So what are we going to be talking about here today? Well, I think it's important that we start our conversation with just a little bit about me. Right. Oftentimes when people give these presentations about their career and how they got there, they kind of skip some steps. They don't really talk about themselves. They don't really talk about the things in their background that kind of help them get there. And so I want to be honest about some of those things. And so I always want to start with a conversation about myself and my career. Then we'll talk about generally what cybersecurity attorneys do. We'll talk about how I got started in some of my kind of first kind of cases in the cybersecurity arena. And then we'll talk about how you can get involved. So we'll talk about cyber skills, and we'll get to talk about my 2 favorite topics. One is Mama Hendricks, and the second is cybersecurity. And so once we talk about those skills, we'll finally end with a conversation about mentors and sponsors. There's a lot of great literature about those 2 kind of roles. But I always like to talk about it in terms that we all can understand. And so you need a Jay-Z and you need a Beyonce in your life for you to be able to have a successful career. All right, next slide, please. And we'll go one more. So let's talk a little bit about myself. I am just a kid from Oklahoma. I am from Oklahoma. I grew up there. I do not have a kind of technical background. I wasn't a computer science major. I didn't have any lawyers in my family. And so when I was having trouble in law school and I would talk to my mom, she was like, well, we don't have any lawyers in our family, but everybody in church will pray for you. And that's how I got through contract law. And so well, let's go to that next kind of slide. So I went to Howard University. I am a proud Howard University graduate, and Howard prepared me for a career that I didn't even know existed. Oftentimes when I talk to students who are considering where they want to go to school, I talk about how HBCUs help instill confidence in students. There you can focus on education. You don't have to have kind of those other conversations about how did they get into this school, right? Because you are at an HBCU. And so having confidence in yourself, having confidence in your abilities is essential when you start on a new path. In addition, Howard University taught me how to hustle. It taught me how to get the things that I need. And so those skills will help in any kind of career that you choose. Next slide, please. So 2 great lessons that I learned at Howard is, one, I learned never to be afraid to ask. If you need something, you can ask. The worst thing they will say is no. right? But then I also learned to never let someone who doesn't have the authority to say yes to tell you no, right? Some people will just tell you no because they don't want to ask their supervisor if they're going to be able to help you. And so you need to find the person who has the ability to say yes. And so these two lessons were really, really important for me because that's how I got into law school, right? I could not afford a prep class. Everyone told me that if you want to get into the best law schools, you need to take one of these LSAT prep courses that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And so I went up to the class one evening after one of those prep classes had finished, and I just asked. I said, "Hey, it doesn't look like your class is full. You got any slots for free that I could just sit in and learn?" And the guy was taken aback, and he was just like, "Okay, fine. You know, no one has ever asked me if they could just come in and sit in the back of the class and learn for free." And so that's how I was able to take an LSAT prep class that allowed me to get the score that I needed to get into law school. Next slide, please. So oftentimes when people talk about their careers, they never really mention their unfair advantages, the things that they have that not everyone might have. I have great parents. I have a lot of family support, a lot of people who believe in me. I went to a very, very good law school that exposed me to so many different areas of law. And I work at a law firm with my law partners that encourage my cybersecurity practice. And so those are the things that I have that really have helped me that everyone might not have, but even still, you can still take this approach and get this type of career if that's something that you want. And so later on, we'll talk about some of those skills that translate that all of us already possess that can help us get into a great position, even if you don't have the same types of advantages that I may have. All right, let's go to that next slide. So what cybersecurity attorneys do. Next slide. So there are so many things that cybersecurity attorneys do, and it ranges kind of the gambit, right? You focus on cybersecurity issues, and you work on so many different types of areas, whether that's helping people in the front end by creating data breach response plans and providing training. During a cybersecurity incident, you lead the response. You help them with breach notification compliance, you draft technology agreements, you review technology agreements. You also defend clients in litigation related to cybersecurity issues. Next slide. So let's talk about me. What do I do as a cybersecurity attorney? Well, I help clients throughout the whole life cycle of cybersecurity. And the best way to kind of understand the role that I play is to think about it in basketball terms. I describe myself to clients as the point guard of their cybersecurity kind of team. And so when I say point guard, it doesn't mean the best player on the team, right? There are a number of teams where their best player may be the center, their best player may be a power forward, but I play an important role. So let's talk about that in a little bit more detail. Let's go to the next slide. So anyone who has seen a basketball game, you can point out the point guard almost immediately, right? It's the person who has the ball most of the time, who is setting up their teammates for success. And that's my role. I set up all the people involved for success. So what does that actually look like? Well, one of the first things I do is I always try to help clients with practicing what they would do if the worst thing would happen: a cybersecurity event, a data breach. And this is done by training employees, by developing cybersecurity plans, and to ensure that everybody is on the same page so that when there is a incident, it looks like a beautiful basketball play where everyone knows what they're doing and everyone is in the right position. So next slide, please. So training is really important. I help companies create training programs for their new employees. And the focus of training is to help employees not only kind of understand the rules, but feel empowered. And so I have a couple of pictures on this slide. And so the top picture is LeBron explaining to Austin Reeves during his first year playing for the Lakers a play. And you can see he looks really, really confused. And that often happens during training. But if you do it the right way, employees feel empowered, they feel more confident, and then they're able to talk to other employees about that. So the bottom picture is Austin Reeves this year, where he is confident in himself. He knows what's going on, so much so that he's helping another teammate with understanding a play. Along with kind of this initial training for employees, I also do tabletop exercises. So what's a tabletop exercise? It's basically a scrimmage. It's a dress rehearsal. It's something that you do where you get everybody in the same room together and you talk about what we would do if a cybersecurity incident, a data breach, a ransomware attack happened. And we go over everyone's roles. It's an opportunity for everyone to practice the plan that they have prepared. Next slide. So one of the things that cybersecurity attorneys do that people probably think of the most is leading data breaches. And so my role is to lead the investigation and lead the response. When I get on a call after a cybersecurity incident, I tell everyone that the offense and the investigation runs through the point guard. It runs through me. And why is that? It's because I help everyone be in the right position. I make sure that information goes to the right people and that it avoids going to some other people because we want to maintain privilege. And privilege is just legal protection for our discussions. And the only way we can do that is by having a lawyer involved. While everyone has practiced their responsibilities and everyone should know what their role is, I'm there to remind them. I'm there to say, hey, we're not there yet at this stage. We're not at the point where we can talk to the media. Let's do a couple more things, and then you can start to have that conversation with the media. I'm the person that tells people no a lot of times, but I say no to protect people. Let's go to the next slide. I'm also around for the recovery process. And I want to make sure that clients kind of learn from their mistakes. A lot of people will have their head down after a cybersecurity incident because it's one of the worst days, right? But I'm there to have a conversation with them about, hey, here's what happened. Here's what we can do going forward so that we never have to have that moment, right? And this can be done through training of employees, finding out what these weak areas are, providing lessons learned to boards about, hey, here are the lessons we should be taking away from this. And then updating breach response plans to say, hey, this play didn't work last time. So here are some new things that we can do together to put ourselves in a better position. So let's go to the next slide. Another part of what I do is helping with litigation, whether that's from plaintiff's attorneys or helping when a regulator wants to get some insight into what the company did or what the company may have not done. And so there are a number of lawsuits that have been on the headlines that you probably read about. And so that is a significant part of my job. Let's go to the next slide. I always like to give examples, right? And so I've taken out some client names, but I want to give you some examples of some of the things that I do. And so I work on a team. And while I am the chair of the practice group, I am fortunate enough to have a number of great attorneys that work with me. So let's talk about example number one. So I led a breach response for a healthcare entity. And so what exactly does that look like? Well, they had a cybersecurity crisis and they called me. And so I led the investigation. They hired forensics companies to kind of look at what happened in their system. And so I supervised them. And because you have clients and patients all over the world, when a company suffers a cybersecurity incident, they have to realize that they're going to have to send notices to everybody. And every state has a different law. And so I help them kind of get through kind of those issues. I prepare notices. I respond to communications from attorney general's offices, because anytime you send out notice, various state leaders in different states will call you because they want some answers. They want to know why people in their state were impacted by something that may have happened more locally. I also responded to inquiries from the Office of Civil Rights that's in charge of HIPAA compliance. And so I navigated a whole bunch of things to help this client out. Let's go to the next slide. So I wanted to give a second example. So the second example is where I helped a school district. A school district suffered a ransomware attack. And now they had to send out notices to 48 states because most kids had already graduated and they had left, their home state to start their lives, to start their careers. And so now you had a smaller school district kind of having to deal with the fact that they had to send out notices to students who lived throughout the country. And some of them didn't even live in the US. And so I helped them prepare those notices. I helped them kind of fix some issues because they had cybersecurity insurance and their cybersecurity council made some mistakes. So they brought in the second point guard and I led the unit and we were able to get this done and taken care of. And then finally, our third example of what I do, and this comes from the litigation space. So let's go to the next slide. So I represented a clinic that was facing a class action lawsuit because of a cybersecurity event. And the plaintiffs in that case, they were seeking hundreds of millions of dollars. And so that's really scary for a client. You get something in the mail and someone says, we need 200 million plus from you. You're shocked. And so I was able to convince the court to dismiss the case. And fortunately enough, we were able to get the clinic out where they did not have to deal with the class action anymore. And so these litigations are very, 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 very troubling and stressful for companies. And so we are fortunate enough to be able to get that case resolved. Next slide. So I've talked a lot about what lawyers do, but let's talk about what lawyers don't do. You're not going to ask me to get your system back up. I'm not touching a keyboard. Don't ask me to touch your computer. I ain't got it, right? But there are a number of other things that you do as a cybersecurity attorney. And so you don't have to have all the technical skills to be able to work in this space. So how did I get here? How did I get started? Let's talk about it. Next slide. And we'll go one more as well. So how did I become interested in cybersecurity law? Well, I was a victim of a data breach, right? In 2015, the Office of Personnel and Management disclosed that there had been a data breach that affected the records of 25.7 million people. So there's probably a few more people here who are also impacted by this breach because it was so large. Next slide. And I was mad, understandably, right? You get something in the mail and they say, hey, sorry, my bad, we lost your records. I was mad because how could you lose so many records? And so I called. I said, someone's going to talk to me today. And so I called and I called. And I eventually was able to talk to someone, and it was a lawyer. It was a cybersecurity attorney. And this is my first time talking to someone that did that. And so at first we started talking about the incident, but soon we were just simply talking about what do you do and what type of work does she do? And she gave me a lot of great advice, and it kind of started me on my cybersecurity journey. So that was one good thing that I was able to see because of that. So let's go to the next slide. So the first cybersecurity matter that I worked on, I was helping a client that received a phishing email. The client reached out to me because I was doing other work for them, for their business that operated in a lot of countries in Asia. And the phishing email appeared to be an email from the Chinese government. Next slide. And so the client was very, very worried about this. And they were worried because they had had so many interactions with the Chinese government that they weren't sure what was real and what was fake. And so the email required them to log into a system and to pay a fine and pay for a specialized license, something that they typically do all the time. And only because someone at the office internally said, hey, let's send this to the lawyer to make sure that it's real because I believe we already paid this. That I got the email from them. So let's go to the next slide. So I explained what a phishing email was and what it looked like, and some of the tips and tricks to be able to, uh, um, avoid being got, right? But I wasn't expert, so I spent a lot of time searching for the answer. I knew it was a scammer email, but I wanted to find out what's the right term to say to the client, right? I don't think they want to hear their lawyer say, "Don't click on that, that's a scam." And so that's when I started to do a little bit more research and understanding some of the tips and tricks to deal with, with phishing emails. Let's go to the next slide. But everything wasn't perfect, right? Mistakes were made. I made some mistakes along the way, biting off more than I could chew, taking on everything related to technology, not clearly articulating to people what I do and what I want to do. And then I spent a lot of time focusing on home runs. You want to do the big splashy cases, right? But you're only able to do that if you build relationships with clients, helping them with other kind of smaller cybersecurity issues, right? No one calls a lawyer that they don't know. And so you want to be known to clients by being involved and helping them with other issues so that they trust you and build that relationship for the bigger things. Next slide. But even with the mistakes that I've made, I was able to succeed. And I always recommend people to take a second look at cybersecurity law and privacy law because it is a new field. There are very, very few lawyers that can say truthfully that they are a leading expert in this field because it is so new. So we're all really learning together. But also making mistakes is an opportunity for us to learn more, to find out our areas of weakness, and to focus on learning. And so everyone is constantly learning because the field is rapidly changing and developing. And so don't feel like you are behind because you just moved into this space. You are not. It is constantly changing, constantly developing. And so you are just a few months away from a big change in the industry, and you can be on level playing field with people who may have been there years before you. Next slide. So you already have a number of the skills that will make you great in this field, right? You don't have to have all the technical skills to be a cybersecurity attorney or even to work in cybersecurity as a whole. Sure, you need to learn some basics. You need to be able to understand a few terms so that you can have a conversation. But there are a number of other non-technical skills that are essential. And I always like to tell people, especially when I'm talking to minority students, that you already have those skills, right? We've developed those skills so much already, and we just need to harness those skills. And so I say to everyone, you already have those skills. And if you don't believe me, just ask my mother. So next slide. So I get to brag on Mama Hendricks. So Mama Hendricks is a retired kindergarten teacher. She's not a coder. She's not a computer science major. She's not a cybersecurity expert. I still get phone calls about needing some help with her phone or with her computer. And so she is not a cybersecurity expert, but she was still able to outsmart cyber criminals running the "Can I ask for a favor" gift card scam. Next slide. So I want to take you back in time, pre-pandemic, to Christmas 2018. My mom gets a text message from a cyber criminal pretending to be one of her good friends, right? And it's the holiday season, so she's getting a lot of text messages from people that she doesn't always get to talk to on the phone, right? And so it's not uncommon to get a text message for someone that you only talk to once a year. And her friend told my mom how stressed she was about trying to prepare for the holiday season. And the fake friend then asked my mom for just a quick favor. And my mom, she's so nice. So, of course, she's going to help her friends out with a favor. The fake friend says that she needs my mom to purchase a gift card for her grandchild. And the fake friend then promised my mom, "Hey, I'm going to pay you back as quickly as possible. I just don't have time to go and get it. Can you go to the store, get the gift card, and then send me the gift card number so I can give it to him so he has his gift card for Christmas," right? And so you may be saying, next slide, that, okay, this scam, so what? Like no one falls for this. This is the most basic thing, right? No one falls for it. And so what I did is I went to the FTC website and I pulled the numbers of gift card scam losses around that same period of time in 2018 to September of 2021. And you see, these are big losses in the millions, right? And we've also seen a spike in these types of attacks just last year. And these aren't just our senior citizens who are the ones that are being impacted. Victims include all types of people. There are stories about companies and CEOs and even people who are fraud and cybersecurity experts admitting that they got by this scam. And so that makes it so much more remarkable that my mom was able to outsmart these cyber criminals. So what exactly did she do? Let's look at that next slide. Well, one of the things that my mom did is she asked questions. She asked questions about, why do you need me to do this? You can buy it online. Why aren't you going to Amazon? She also tried to verify that the person that she was talking to was actually her friend. So she did something that not a lot of people do right now. She picked up the phone and called her friend. When things didn't sound right, she trusted her gut, right? You have a lot of these instincts, and she did not purchase the gift card. And I know this sounds simple, but these are skills that will help you if you don't have those technical skills. And these skills translate into a career, not just as a cybersecurity attorney, but in cybersecurity as a whole. But let's talk a little bit more about what are some of these non-technical skills that you can use as a cybersecurity attorney. Let's go to the next slide. So a lot of the literature talks about having healthy skepticism, right? You need to have that inner soldier boy look at something and say, hey, it's fake, it's Photoshop, it's not real. You need to have that kind of inner voice in your head. You need to be cautious when you see emails so that you don't click on things and download files that can have an impact on your system. It also helps you being able to deal with disinformation, right? You want to check the sources when you see something on social media. And so this skill translates perfect into a world of cybersecurity. Let's look at the next slide. Another skill that's really, really important is communication skills. You need to be effective at speaking and writing. Clients expect you to be able to explain these really complicated concepts just in simple terms that everyone can kind of understand. It doesn't matter how smart you are if you can't explain it in a way that people understand. And so when you come from a non-technical background, you're so used to being able to communicate to people just in a simple way that once you start getting these extra technical skills, if you just remember how you traditionally talk to people, you're going to be at a great advantage, and people will want to listen to you because they're not confused. They understand it as we go along. Next slide. You also need to be a problem solver. When people are facing cybersecurity problems, it's important to remember that they are just facing problems, right? And you need to be able to think quickly. You need to be able to think clearly to reach a solution. Problem solving also involves creativity. So if you're a creative person, that's going to help you because you're going to be able to think outside the box. You're going to be able to think about a problem in a different way than someone else. And that might help you reach your kind of conclusion and solution for your clients. Finally, the last skill I want to talk, next slide, is teamwork. The cybersecurity jobs include teamwork, and being able to work with others helps you give the best service to clients and helps you come up with better ideas. And there are so many people who are experts in cybersecurity, but they just can't get along with people, right? And so when you're building a team, who do you want on your team? You want somebody who's a team player, who can get along with other people, who can collaborate. And that is a skill that will pay dividends for you throughout your career. So I want to end our conversation with talking about mentors and sponsors. So next slide. And we'll go one more. So everyone needs help in their career, and everyone has had help, right? Sometimes it's a lot of help, sometimes it's just a little bit, but we've all had help in our careers. And so mentors and sponsors play a meaningful part in everyone's career, but especially in mine, right? And they play an even more significant role for diverse people wanting to get into cybersecurity. And so you need to be able to find a mentor and a sponsor that can help you. And so let's talk about what is a mentor versus a sponsor. Next slide. So they're two different things. And a lot of times when you talk to people, they'll confuse the two, but they are separate and distinct things. And it's important to know the difference so that you can make sure that you get both a mentor and a sponsor. So sponsors are advocates for their protege, right? They focus on using their capital, their goodwill to be able to get you a promotion, to help you reach that next step, to get you those better projects that might help you expand your career, your expertise. A mentor plays a different role. Like they provide guidance, they provide a sounding board, they provide encouragement. And so I would go to my mentor when I have things about, hey, I have this idea, how does it sound, right? I go to my sponsor when I say, hey, I'd like to do these things. Is there a way that you can help me get in those rooms? You can help me be able to have those conversations, because now I'm walking in with someone who has a great reputation and they're using that goodwill and they're giving it to me so that I'm able to advance my careers. And so mentors and sponsors are different things. Let's go to the next slide. So I was going to bore everyone with a lot of this kind of new literature from Harvard Business Review about mentors versus sponsors and all of the great research. But I like to talk about things in a way that everybody will understand. Is that okay? We're going to do that instead. So you need a Jay-Z in your career. So what do sponsors do, and what does that look like? You need someone to advocate for you. But not only advocate for you, talk about your accomplishments, because your accomplishments always sound better when someone else is saying it for you, right? And so we kind of remember that speech that Jay-Z did at the Grammy. He was getting an award in a moment where everyone was applauding him and cheering him, and he was getting this kind of global impact award. It was a big moment for him. And he used part of that moment to talk about not just himself, but his wife. He talked about her accomplishments, how she had the most Grammys, talked about how people were being unfair to her. He was taking that moment of all that goodwill that he had for that award, all that praise, and he was using some of that to shine a light on his wife. And so it got a lot of headlines, it got a lot of attention, but it also got a lot of people talking about, maybe we aren't appreciating Beyonce as much as we should. And so that's something that sponsors can do. They shine a light on you. They get people talking about not just what you're currently doing, but the accomplishments and how we should properly view those accomplishments. So let's go to the next slide. Along with that, you also need a Beyonce, right? You need that person who plays that different role. You need someone who is a mentor. They provide encouragement. They help you celebrate your wins. They pick you up when you need it, right? And I call that the Beyonce because if you kind of read articles about young R&B artists, they will talk about the role that Beyonce has played for them, being supportive, being someone that they can call and talk to about ideas. And so I pulled this from Instagram, and this is Chloe Bailey. After a big performance, she received flowers from her mentor, Beyonce, giving some just encouragement about what they did and saying that she was very proud. And that meant the world for them. And so you need both of those. You need that sponsor to help you get those big opportunities, somebody that can kind of go out and advocate for you. But you also need someone that can be that sounding board and that encouragement. And so if you want to advance in a career, you need both a Jay-Z and a Beyonce. So let's talk about finding mentors and sponsors. Let's go to the next slide. So how can you find a mentor? How can you find a sponsor? Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to ask, right? There are so many people that are willing to actually do this job, but people just don't ask them. And so, they're not anybody's sponsor. They're not anybody's mentor because no one called them and said, hey, I really like what you do. I'd love to have a better relationship with you. I want you to be a mentor, or I want you to help me advance in my career. Because a lot of times people will say yes. Next, you need to be able to find mentors inside and outside of the profession that you want to be in. It's great to have someone who is doing something that you want to do, but you also want to find people who are just doing great things in their career, even if it's not the same as yours, because they're going to have some insight. They're going to be able to give you a different perspective. And so you need to be able to find mentors inside and outside your profession, because a lot of times if you find a mentor outside of your profession, they know a lot of people. And so they can make a call, they can make an introduction to help you find a mentor that does the exact thing that you want to do. Finally, mentors and sponsors don't have to share your background. Sure, it's great to find someone who's like you, but that doesn't have to be a prerequisite for someone to be your mentor or your sponsor. You need to find someone who is willing to help you, willing to invest in you, and willing to invest in your career. So next slide. So we've spent some time together, right? And we've had this conversation. You were in the office, you were doing some work, and you were watching, and people are like, what are you watching? What did you learn? And you're going to be like, oh, I don't remember, but he did a great job, and I really like his tie, right? And it's not your fault. Studies have found that the brain can't remember new information and forgets about half of what you learn within 30 minutes. And the brain can really only focus on 6 to 9 kind of key pieces of data at once before there is this big drop off of memory and attention. So I'm here to help you out. So if your coworkers or your boss ask you what you learned during this presentation. So we'll go to the next slide. And what I did is I created 6 takeaways, right? That's the sweet spot. So you're going to be able to remember at least a few of these if someone asks you what you learned during this presentation. So first, cybersecurity attorneys are the point guard for companies. We lead investigations, we lead training, and we help. Cyber attorneys' roles can vary, but it includes training, drafting policies, and leading breaches investigations. Third, you don't need to have all the technical skills to succeed, not only as a cybersecurity attorney, but just in cybersecurity in general. Fourth, we all have non-technical skills that can help us in a career in cybersecurity. So just remember, Mama Hendricks, a kindergarten teacher, but she was able to outwit cyber criminals. 5, communication, problem solving, and teamwork are all skills needed to be successful. And then finally, mentors and sponsors play different roles, but you need both of them to succeed. All right, next slide. So you can scan the QR code. It'll take you to my website. And then in the section that says most recent talks, you can download slides of my most recent presentations. And this evening, I'll upload these slides as well. And then finally, let's go to the last slide. I always have to end my presentations with ways to contact not only me, but also my law partners, because they are also kind about me being so generous with my time. Thank you so much. I am open to answering questions. Thank you.
Anthony, thank you so much. This was awesome. I would even venture to say that there is a 7th takeaway.
Okay.
Have unlimited audacity.
Yes.
Closed mouths don't get fed, so sometimes you just have to speak up and ask for what you want.
Absolutely.
That's in life and career. So let's go through some questions. So the first question that we have is from Edward Hubbard. Essentially, he's leaning towards a master's degree, a Juris Master's, with a concentration in cyber privacy and technology risk management. Based on your expertise, Anthony, does a master's degree program like the one that was named above prepare for a great role in the industry?
So I don't know what school it is, but what I would do is I would look at it and say, okay, what are the things that they're teaching, right? What's their focus? And you'll kind of get a feel for it based on the types of classes. and you don't want to take and go to a program that teaches some things that you don't want to focus on. Some programs are more leaning into the technical aspect of it. Some of them are leaning into the privacy aspect of it. And so when you're judging these programs, you want to judge based on, are they going to help me learn some stuff? And the stuff that they're teaching me, is that the stuff that I'm actually interested in?
Okay, so the college is the College of Law, Florida State University, FY.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I would just ask those kind of questions as you're kind of going through the process of making the determination of what program and what school you want to go to.
All right. So our next question, and actually I had a similar question. Cybersecurity as an industry is forever changing. It's forever changing. Right now, what was a major risk 10 years ago was completely different than what was a risk, say, now, right? So I guess and the next question from Josh is, what is your opinion on how well the field of law is doing with keeping up with the rapid advancements and introduction of new technology?
The law is slow, right? It's slow to keep up. We are an area where we look back at things, right? There'll be a big Supreme Court case where we're talking about a very, very important issue. And then if you look at like what happened and what led to them getting to the Supreme Court, you'll see a lawsuit 5 years ago, right? And so law is slow to keep up. Part of that is a product of it. You want to be able to look back at things, but it is slow to keep up. And so technology always outpaces our laws. It outpaces the legal profession. And it's really, really important for lawyers to kind of stay abreast of technology, because even if we don't have a law that is exactly spot on to what's going on, we usually have other laws that are similar or that can be applied. But that only happens if we're able to understand the technology, understand where we are going. But it is difficult because law by its nature just looks back at what has happened.
Makes sense. All right. So next question. So from a legal perspective, what are your thoughts on generative AI?
So generative AI has a lot of possibilities, right? A lot of possibilities. It's a lot of things. It's great to watch innovation. But as a lawyer, when people are talking about, Chat GPT, people are talking about the ability to be able to type text and turn it into pictures and videos, it'd be making my head hurt because it raises all types of legal issues, right? And who owns the information that is created? Like if you have an algorithm that is learning from other information, who owns what's comes out of it, right? Who owns that output? All types of issues of people putting in information that they shouldn't. And if you have a company and you have information that is yours, that's a trade secret, and then you have an employee who has to write a report and they need to use that document and they take a shortcut and Chat GPT, and now you're dealing with the issue of how do we get our information back from an algorithm that's using that to learn. It raises all types of legal issues and legal opportunities. And then as a professor who teaches smart law school students, they be trying to find ways to use those tools. And I have to be able to outwit Chat GPT. So there are all types of opportunities, all types of legal issues, all types of challenges that we need to work together to kind of meet head on.
So we talk a lot about development, right? Just as the industry constantly changes. How do you personally stay abreast of changes in our cybersecurity industry?
Yeah, no, it is hard. So many things are happening. And if you were to sit down and be like, all right, I want to be 100% caught up with everything that's going on, you would never do any work. You would just be reading all the time. You wouldn't have any fun. So what I do is every day I just spend just a few minutes kind of looking at kind of the headlines of things. And I go through and I'll say, okay, this is interesting. This is interesting. And the things that are a little bit more interesting to me or might impact my clients, that's why I spend a little bit more time reading. But I start with just trying to do small things. And so I'll spend 10 minutes at the start of the day, kind of just looking at the headlines, some of the things that are going on. I also follow a lot of great people on social media, on LinkedIn, who are experts in those areas. And I kind of read kind of what they're trying to write about in those spaces, so that I can kind of figure out, okay, well, here's something interesting that's going on. And here, somebody who spends a lot of their time focusing on this particular area, here's what they think. And that kind of gives me a head start. Also, when I teach a class, you have to stay up to date with what's going on, because the students will ask all types of questions. And so you want to be at least able to understand what's going on. And they help me as well. I do a little cheating. I start every class with each student talking about a cybersecurity or privacy story in the news that they thought is interesting. And so oftentimes they'll talk about something that I didn't even know about. And so I'm like, oh, this is great. You know, I'm going to take a little note right now. And so, you know, it's an even exchange for us.
Awesome. Awesome. So guys, we have a few more moments to ask questions. I'll give you maybe another 15 seconds to pop a question in the chat. Elaine, I'm not sure if you have any additional questions while we're waiting for folks to ask additional questions.
Not a question, but I will say outstanding topic, Anthony. Thank you. I mean, this was really great. I personally love that you spent time on the mentoring and sponsorship. And I think it's just very important to break that down. And I really enjoyed your slide on like the unfair advantage, but I think sometimes we forget what things are in our corner. And I just really appreciate how you brought that to light. And I think even for me, you know, as a reflection period of like when you are trying to, you know, go into a different direction, a career, learn something new, it's important to write down the things that are already working for us. Like, what are our skills that we have? Family that's supportive, you know, community that's supportive. So I honestly, I mean, 5 stars. No wonder you're the point guard. I'm loving it. This is amazing.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we talk so much. Literally, we talk about how Cyversity is for underrepresented groups, but we have our own privileges that we can take advantage of, and so that's really an important part to important point to note. Okay, so we're going to switch gears for a moment and have a training and education corner. So what you'll see whenever we have one of our events is at the end, what we'll do is we'll talk about, you know, opportunities for your own personal upskilling. It may be certifications, it may be anything interesting that you may want to learn about. So next slide, please. Okay, yeah, actually, so we've sort of talked about this, but I would love to know in the chat if you guys have considered an alternate path to cyber. Edward sort of spoke to his alternate path. I'd love to know about others. And even Elena, you can also speak to we have a bit of alternate paths as well for cyber. Let's check the comments here.
Well, and I know someone asked about AI, and so, you know, so someone today might be in a role and I mean, maybe you work in the stock and you see that there's this emerging technology of AI, and then like, how will we secure it, right? So if that's an interest, you know, different organizations are adopting cloud, right? If you're in an organization that's on-prem and you're looking, how do you transition to cloud? Or are you interested in certain certifications? I love that this conversation that we had today even talked about the legal aspect, right? And so it's like, what are your skills? Are you a project manager today, but you would love to be a technical project manager in cybersecurity? I mean, what are the things that you're thinking of doing, whether it's pen testing, threat hunt? I think these are all the conversations. And then the other piece that I do think is critical based on where you are, we need people, like we've got our lawyer here, but compliance. I mean, all the regulatory policies that are coming out, and I mean, the new laws that are being passed to keep up with the emerging technology. If you aren't there yet considering something new, just hopefully some of what I've rattled off will spark your interest. And then we'll talk about some solutions as you look to educate yourself.
Yeah, so whenever someone is interested in cybersecurity and they don't really know what path to kind of go on, because you think first thing you think about cyber, you think about hacking, you think about pen testing, but what's posted in the comments here is the NIST Workforce Development Framework, and it provides essentially the 7 categories of cyber. And there are 7 categories and functions in which you can actually focus on from a education perspective, right? So my role, I work in security awareness. I will be in the governed space, right? So GRC, risk management. So I encourage people to take a look at that to see if there are roles and functions that sort of align with your skill set and aptitude, to see if you want to go down that path. Not everybody's going to want to be a developer or a pen tester or a coder, right? Or a hacker. So I love sharing that framework just to kind of get people to thinking about different opportunities for a great career in cyber. Next slide, please. All right, next as well. All right, so you don't need a certification to be in cyber, that's clear, but I do want to share this information for a free certification. So IC Squared, those are the folks that you may have heard of the CISP and others certifications. Well, these folks are actually offering 1 million in certified in cybersecurity. It's the C Squared. And this is a training and a certification that is free. And if you're interested in sort of getting a entry-level cybersecurity certification for free, I recommend that you check out this link, and then take the training. So it's a nice introduction to cyber. There are lots of certifications, but this one is free, and so I always recommend this to folks that have an interest in kind of breaking into cybersecurity. Next slide, please.
And Angel, I'll add. No, you can stay there, but I'll add. It also helps with your SMART goals. So like thinking about it, like, I mean, there are so many educational opportunities, right? And so if like Edward shared that he knows he wants to get a master's and focus specifically on law and focus on law in the realm of cybersecurity, right? And that's wonderful. But if you don't know, it can be a little bit of a money grab. And so we're here to demystify some of that for you, right? And so if you start here with a free cert and give yourself 2 to 3 months to get that certification, how great is that? You've created a specific and a measurable and attainable goal, right? And I'm sure everyone here knows the whole SMART analogy, right? So I won't go into it, but you're very specific and you've started there. And whether you apply that to the CISSP, Security Plus, whatever cert that is, start there. Because then the other piece, as Anthony already talked about, is you've got to share. You've got to share with your mentor, your sponsor, at your company, your manager. Because if you're doing all this in a silo, how can people advocate for you? And so I think a lot of times what happens is we get the education, we forget to bring people along with us, and we make this huge financial time and commitment and investment. And then we turn around and we're like, well, why didn't I get the new job? Why don't I have the bigger salary? Well, we didn't bring people along with us, or we fizzled out on that goal along the way. So just start with that. If you're interested, just beginning in cyber, start here with the free. And then if you're a little bit deeper and you have a specific area, try and find the thing that's not the most expensive. I love that Anthony said he just asked, like, can I take the class for free? It doesn't look like the class is full. So, I mean, unless they tell you no, I mean, send an email and ask even if it costs something.
Yes, agreed. And, sometimes you have to bang your drum, right? So doing the work is one thing, but if people don't know the work that you're doing, that sponsorship and that mentorship may not happen. So again, audacity. Have unlimited audacity, and do not be afraid to share your excellence to people that can open doors that are not yet open to you. So that's I always tell people that. All right, next slide, please. All right, so we are heading towards the end of today's conversation. Please leave your feedback so we can continue to provide fun and engaging programming. Please reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. Again, guys, thank you so much for your time. This was fantastic. Anthony, thank you so much. We really, really enjoyed this session. Again, this session will be recorded. It will be available on LinkedIn as well as the Cyversity YouTube page. So again, and also join Cyversity. please. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Elena, thank you. My lovely co-host, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Josh and team, thank you so much for helping facilitate the comments in the section. And again, have a wonderful evening, guys. Thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing your careers bloom in cybersecurity. Thank you so much.